Are tariffs a bad thing, or can they ever be genuinely useful? By the end of this video, you'll understand the situations where tariffs make sense and why they often don't. When we're trying to decide whether a policy is good or bad, the first step should always be the same. We lay out the strongest arguments on both sides of the issue. First, let's start with the case against tariffs. Imagine someone in the US ordering a shipment of acai berries from a farmer in Brazil. Both sides only agree to the trade because they expect to come out ahead. The buyer values the berries more than the money they're giving up, whereas the seller values the money more than the berries. As long as everyone's acting freely and rationally with accurate information, every cross-border trade increases the benefit to both parties. Multiply that by millions of transactions, and you get the basic case for free trade. Now suppose that tariffs are added, a tax at the US border that makes the berries costlier to import. If the tariff is steep enough, our buyer no longer values the berries more than the cost he has to pay, so he cancels the order and the farmer loses the sale. A transaction that both parties wanted and that would have made them both better off simply vanishes. That lost benefit is part of what economists call deadweight loss, and it's the first big strike against tariffs. Strike 2 against tariffs is perhaps even more important. Higher import prices means consumers have less purchasing power. That means that if the US puts tariffs on other countries, it effectively makes the people of the US poorer because they're no longer able to buy as much. Keeping these ideas in mind, consider 2018's steel and aluminum tariff that the US enacted against other countries. In a poll of economists and experts, all 40 of the respondents said the policy would not help American welfare. A consensus that strong is very rare. Given their costs, you might expect that tariffs would be political poison, yet governments still sometimes adopt them. So why is that? We're going to look at 4 common motives, starting with very bad reasons and moving to potentially more defensible ones. Bad reason number 1, special interest lobbying. When a local industry convinces the government to adopt tariffs, they can benefit because it makes imports they compete with more expensive. Unfortunately, the benefits to that industry typically create diffused costs that get spread among the people that live in that country. While not every lobbying effort is harmful, when local industries lobby for tariffs, they typically benefit those industries at the expense of the rest of the country. Bad reason number 2, leader irrationality. Some leaders simply like wielding tariffs. Perhaps it signals toughness or national pride or makes them feel powerful. Either such leaders don't understand the economics of tariffs, or they simply don't care. In such cases, tariffs burn money and get headlines for the benefit of the leader, but not for the people. Those are bad reasons to do tariffs, but let's discuss some potentially good reasons. Reason number 3, a negotiation weapon. Applying tariffs as a negotiating tool can sometimes be rational, though it's also typically very costly and potentially risky. Countries may slap tariffs on another in order to extract concessions. Sometimes a larger country can use tariffs to get favorable terms that give them a net benefit, even if it comes at the cost of that smaller country. However, using tariffs as a negotiating weapon can come with 3 challenges. Challenge 1, by using tariffs to hurt another country, you're punishing yourself at the same time, so it's a costly approach. Challenge number 2, the rival often will retaliate, escalating the damage and leaving your own country worse off than you started. Challenge number 3, this approach typically erodes trust, which can potentially poison future deals and prevent mutually beneficial cooperation. So while countries can use tariffs as a negotiation tool, it often faces serious challenges. This brings us to our 4th reason for why countries will sometimes use tariffs: nurturing a strategic infant industry. Suppose your nation wants a homegrown semiconductor sector, either for economic prosperity or for security, or as a possible wartime resource. Currently, though, the industry can't compete with much cheaper imports. In that case, temporary tariffs on imports of these goods may give the fledgling industry time to strengthen and grow until it eventually can compete on a level playing field. The catch is, you need a carefully crafted, long-term strategy for this to work. And in such cases, the tariffs would be focused on key strategic industries. While such an approach can sometimes be very beneficial to a country, the reality is that history is littered with infant industry plans that completely failed. A classic example of this is Argentina, where they attempted to use tariffs to force local assembly of TVs and electronics. Unfortunately, these tariffs failed to create a thriving industry. It's also worth noting there are a few special situations where tariffs may make sense, even though those situations usually won't apply. If another country is dumping heavily subsidized goods, a matching tariff can level the playing field. Another case is as a last resort to raise revenue. When domestic tax collection is difficult or impossible, tariffs can raise funds. Though economists generally agree it's an inefficient method compared to approaches like a value-added tax. A third case is as an emergency job boost. In severe recessions, temporary tariffs may cushion local employment. However, this is usually inferior to other approaches. The fourth case is to deter bad practices. For instance, if an importing country has terrible labor practices or environmental violations, a tariff can be added to penalize those practices with the condition it won't be removed unless they improve. As mentioned, these four cases are quite rare, so they're not usually going to apply. This brings us back to the original question of this video. Are tariffs a bad thing, or can they be genuinely useful? Well, most of the time, tariffs make the country that is initiating them worse off. They stop mutually beneficial trade and make people poorer. But there are two narrow pathways that can justify tariffs in some situations. One, they can serve as a costly bargaining chip in a negotiation where you hold a clear advantage and future cooperation isn't being prioritized. And two, when well designed and applied narrowly to key industries, they can act as a temporary shield for a strategically vital infant industry, especially when backed up by a concrete exit plan. When those criteria are not met, the broad rule of thumb is that tariffs leave people and nations poorer. The next time you hear a proposal for new tariffs, ask, is this one of those rare special cases where tariffs are justified, or will this tariff leave people poorer? Tell us what you think about tariffs in the comments below. And if you found this interesting, we'd love it if you'd subscribe. You can also check out a lot more of our work at clearerthinking.org.